Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Generally Speaking podcast. We are recording today, as always, in the beautiful studios of WVHC-FM on the campus of Herkimer County Community College. And for posterity, today is March 27th in the year 2026. 2026. And this is a super special podcast edition. I've never interviewed two people at the same time before, but we're doing it today. With me today from our esteemed art department here on the campus, we have Professor Maryann Wrinn. There she is.
Hey, Bob. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. And we have Assistant Professor Justin Como.
Hi, Bob.
Also with us today. You guys are the art department. You are the art entity among the teaching faculty on campus. I'm really excited to have you guys with me today. I'm hoping to get through the boring, perfunctory questions quickly, and we'll get to the really exciting stuff. So I wanted to know, first of all, if either of you could tell me a little bit about yourself, how you found yourself teaching at Herkimer County Community College. Maryann, how did that happen?
I always wanted to teach from the time I was just a kid. And by the time I was in high school, I knew that I wanted to get my MFA and get a teaching job. So I pursued that avenue, and I applied to a few different places right out of graduate school. And this place in upstate New York called me and said, "Hey, do you want to come for an interview?" And I did, and they offered me the job, and I couldn't believe it, but it was a great choice and a great decision on my part, and I've never regretted it.
Excellent. Justin, I got to hear your story.
How I came to Herkimer, I was teaching in Mississippi, but I'm from Central New York and saw a job opening and was eager to get back north, and saw that ceramics and sculpture were on the call for applicants. So I applied, and that's how I ended up here.
Any teachers in your family, in your background?
My brother,
Not me.
My brother's a professor, and my niece is currently a professor at Syracuse.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Really?
We're a professorial family.
Obviously. Yes. That's outstanding. Because I'm a narcissist, I'll talk about myself. My father was a high school math teacher, and he went into administration, over to the dark side. But I still think of him as a teacher and an educator. So I never set out to do that, but here we are. Talk a little bit about then, in the current environment of higher education in the United States, what's the role of art and teaching art or the study of art? Has that changed or evolved over time? Do we find ourselves in an interesting and unique moment when it comes to art education?
Yeah. Well, I feel like art is always trying to out-art itself, right? So we have no choice for it to change as we continue. And I feel that's art, broadly speaking, not just the visual arts, is where one has, absolute freedom to express what they want to. So that's always going to reflect the current state of what's going on. And in that expression, like when you express yourself, you will learn about yourself. And in learning about yourself, you grow. And that's part of what we do here is grow.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's a very dynamic time right now in terms of both education and art, because of AI, for one thing. Economic situation that is, especially in two-year college, is really making people want to have a direct-to-work situation when they get done with a two-year degree.
Yeah.
And it's harder to do that with an art degree. Primarily, we're launching people into a four-year program from here.
Right.
But I think we have talked about this recently, too, is how we can really work toward professional preparedness for our students, because with AI allowing so many people to create visual content, that there are probably going to be more students doing that, going right from here to a situation where they're creating content maybe for a small business they have or for their own artwork. And so it is really a dynamic time, and it's a little scary, but it's also exciting because I like to be able to really move with the times and try to make what we're doing show the relevance of what we're doing to our students.
I'm glad you guys mentioned AI. I wanted to ask you guys about the role of artificial intelligence in the creation of art. Do you see a legitimate use for it? I think a lot of the discussion around AI, certainly in higher education, ends up being kind of negative. But how do you see that? I mean, it does seem awfully easy now to be able to crank out something and say you made it using artificial intelligence. Anyone?
Well,
I-
for me,
I
like
have a lot
that,
to say.
that's never the point. The cranking something out. There are times where you might need to crank something out, but that's not where the art lives. But I also know that art will make use of absolutely everything at its disposal, right? And this technology is at its disposal, so art will make use of it in some way.
Do you
As
see
far
an
as-
erosion of technique, though, in
Yeah.
using AI tools?
Yeah.
as
But new
oppo-
techniques
as opposed
will
to,
emerge.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know,
For sure.
but as far as like image, I feel like the role of AI is supplemental. The generative images, I've yet to see one that I am like, oh, there's an art. But as a component to building a piece, we had an artist in the gallery on campus here who used AI to help because he had some animatronic parts to it. Was using AI to help him write the code, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Boom.
I agree. I think especially right now at the state where AI is now, it is supplemental or it's part of the workflow. It's not the entire thing, and especially the ability to have rapid iteration of an idea, right? So that allows you to really envision something so much more quickly than maybe you could in the past. So I do think that's really helpful. I also think there is something to be said for making it more accessible for people who either don't have the ability to, like, say, use their hands to do something, or people that just haven't got those technical skills yet. That is still allowing them. The prompt is the art. That is what is going to become the art.
Yeah.
Is because that's where the intention is, right? The machine has no intention. The machine is giving you an idea of what a human wants to see, right? That's what it's doing. So I think it's important to not back away from it, though. I think, I think it was 1840 when Paul Delaroche, the French painter, went to see a daguerreotype show, and he said, as of today, painting is dead, because it scared him so much to think that, this thing, photography, that can capture the time. But of course, it didn't end painting, and AI will not end hand-done artwork either.
I think sometimes I tend personally to think of art as being devoted strictly to creative expression. But there's all different manner of art that can happen, say in the commercial realm, and where it might be necessary to produce very quickly something for a commercial purpose or for promotional purposes, like a poster, right? And AI certainly seems like it could be a shortcut to getting something done effectively, even if it isn't going to be hung in a gallery someday.
Yeah, and it has a role in there, but I would also think about as a viewer, like, what do I want to look at? And for me personally, like, as a viewer, I'm only going to respond as much as you've put into what I'm looking at. And sometimes it's not going to matter. Like, if I need to make a poster for, I don't know what, a cat show, I might not care if it was particularly, well crafted. I just need to get the image across. And right, like I said, like, art's going to make use of anything that it can.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's why I think I'd say the prompting is the art, because take something like Photoshop. I mean, we've all seen terrible Photoshop work done by people who claim to be professionals. And the same thing will happen with AI, right? There's terrible AI, but then there's using it in a way where you still have a high bar of what it should look like. So it's learning to work right now within its limitations the way you would with any medium, and to get the best out of it that you can, if that's your choice of how you want to produce.
I tend to rail against it all the time because I have stuck in my ways about the way I think, but it does seem to be a way to democratize an act of creativity. If you don't have a whole palette of tools at your disposal, like a studio or lots and lots of stuff, you may have a phone, you may have a computer keyboard, and that, to your point, if somebody can make a relevant prompt or ask AI to make something very specific, it seems like a way to get some artwork done.
It's not going to be my choice, but I respect that it's there and that it's a tool. I just see it as a tool that people, as Justin said, that artists will use whatever's there. So people will use it.
I think we could say in 2026 about all things AI, we're still not 100% sure what's happening or what's going to come next, and it does seem to be top of mind a lot of times.
I certainly have strong opinions that I don't want to go into, right? But, I always think too, because I'm a Star Trek nerd, that maybe this is the path to getting a real holodeck.
An actual one.
So whatever critiques I might have, I usually step back because I'm like, maybe I'll get a holodeck.
I would be settling for the food replicator. Right now, we're about noon here on a Friday afternoon, so you may hear my stomach grumbling. How did you guys individually, how did you come to art? Or how did art come to you? When did you realize, as a younger person, that this was something you wanted to do? Was there a single event or a moment or a period of time in your life where you just sort of knew this is what you wanted to do?
Okay, this is a sort of embarrassing story, but when I was ready to go to kindergarten, I had 3 older brothers who had terrorized me about school and what school would be like, that it was terrible and they didn't feed you, and it was very scary. And the only way they could get me to go was to let me paint. So I would be over in my corner painting away while everyone's over in the other corner doing something with the teacher. So I think that was pretty early that I was like, I like this. I want to do more of this. And really, it was just for my entire childhood. That was always my fallback entertainment, was drawing and painting, anything creative, making with my hands, clay, whatever I could get my hands on.
Justin, same question.
For me, I had always made some art, but mostly the biggest influence was it being around me so much, right? Like, my mom was a bit of an artist in her youth, but mostly what she contributed to me being an artist now was her house, right? There was so many prints on the walls, all over. Nothing like extraordinary. These are things that she had picked up at garage sales and thrift stores and stuff, but she curates it. So that was a big part. And I had an uncle who was a folk artist. And, maybe similarly too, like art was around and I would do it. But then along the way, I realized that like this is maybe one of the most rewarding experiences that I engage in. So I kept on.
Excellent. Talk a little bit about your lab spaces here on campus. You guys occupy a pretty large chunk of the first floor down there in the CA building. Talk a little bit about the evolution of those spaces. How have they changed over the period of time? What would somebody expect to see if they came in there and saw you teaching or just saw you in there doing some work?
A mess. But that mess is one of my favorite things about, because I mostly teach in the sculpture ceramic studio. And I absolutely love that's like about ceramics, right? Is that, we're working with mud and it's messy. But out of that, we can produce items that are absolutely pristine. And that's a really rewarding part of it.
I can speak a little bit to the changes because I've been here 30 more years.
From the late 1900s.
Yeah. But when I started here, well, originally, before I even got here, my lab, CA110, was a science lab. So there were actually still gas jets there. They had been cut, but there were still gas jets, and the like the tabletops, the lab sort of tabletops, and the cabinets down there are all like the glass door cabinets that are very narrow because they're designed to hold microscopes. So, and the Justin's studio at that point was the computer aided design lab at that point in time. And when that program ended up going away, we were fortunate enough to get the second space so that we could have, because when I first got here, we had a kiln in my studio. So we had easels, we had a kiln, we had a model stand. It was packed. It was just packed in there. So it was very exciting to get the second space. But in my studio, which is the 2D studio, we have an overhead document camera that I use for my demos, which has been a really great thing, because back in the day, I would just do a demo and people would stand around the table and just watch it. So this allows me to zoom in on things and everyone can get the same view while I'm doing the demonstration. And we have desks that convert to sort of tilt-top easels so people can find their most comfortable position for how they're working. Very, very comfy chairs that everyone's jealous of. And Justin, you have quite a lot of, you want to talk about your...
I try to make sure that we're equipped so that we can do anything within reason with students, no matter how their ideas evolve. I give students maybe some technical parameters and a conceptual prompt, but I expect my students to take their idea as far as they can take it. So I try to make sure we have the facilities as best that we can do that. So things like some power tools, some hand tools, big benches to work on.
You get wheels.
Pottery wheels.
Yeah.
Yes. We operate 2 kilns out of there. And, mostly what I'm proud about that space is, we set it up in such a way that the students know that, like, this is their studio space. They're working. There's probably students in there working right now, and they don't have class because they care about what they're doing and they see value in it.
I'm an infrequent guest to that corner of the campus. My life doesn't take me down there very often, but every time I go down there, there is a vibe. It's fun. It's open. People are being creative. And I wanted to ask then about, the role of art in the 2-year program. We heard a lot in the 2000s and the 2010s about STEM. And then we started to hear about STEAM.
Right.
And the A is the arts. So what do you think that specific role is of just being able to create, and learn about some craft in the context of maybe other curricula?
I would go back to what I was saying about, like, absolute freedom of expression and then learning about yourself. But then that's always limited to whatever medium you're using, but then also limited to the skill set you have. And that's where I feel like we can really come in, because when we talk about those skills, they're valuable they're valuable directly in terms of what we're trying to do, but they're also widely transferable. And it's not just a particular skill of like reading a ruler, which my students, when they leave my classes, they know how to read a ruler. And they're always shocked when we have to do geometry. Because, art is one of those major intersections of humanity where everything will come together. It's not the only one, but it is one of them. And with that, students get to see how everything can connect and get applied. And that's a great value. I think so even the students that are outside of an art major, a lot of students don't know that they have something to say until they have the opportunity to say, or maybe the obligation because they just took a class, right? Yeah. But now you have to say something. Well, what are you going to say? And, in that, I think again about when we get to the intersections, particularly when we think about art history, we start to learn how the world came to be, like how we are what we are now.
Yeah.
And that is, an enlightening experience. And with that enlightenment, we can decide what we want to do and how we want to do it.
Yeah, the creative process is applicable to every discipline. And so when students take a studio class, they start with an idea. And then it's gathering data for how am I going to express this idea? Am I going to get reference photographs from somewhere else? Am I going to set up my own reference photographs? Am I going to make sketches? How am I going to do this? And then it's looking at the available materials and troubleshooting that. How am I going to use these materials? Once you get started in the process, something will go wrong along the way. So then it's thinking on your feet. It's learning to adapt. It's learning to be resilient. And then when you're done with all of that, you're presenting it to a group of people to have them critique you and tell you, you know, here's what we think went right and here's what we think maybe didn't go so right.
That can be a very revealing experience, you know, really putting yourself out there.
And it helps you build a tougher skin, and it helps you to learn to take feedback from people and use what's valuable to you and what can help you grow. What business owner wouldn't want someone with all those skills working
Exactly.
for them?
Exactly. Hey, I've asked you guys a lot of questions, but you guys must have come here today with some thoughts, with some things you wanted to get off your chest. So, open forum now. Let us have it.
This is an awesome space.
It is an awesome.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah.
When I walked in, I was a bit taken aback by the professionalism of it all. Not that it shouldn't be, but I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know. I would have been fine if there was just a camera sitting there, and I wouldn't have thought anything of it.
We've been pretty fortunate to have the ability to have created this little space out of the tiny outer office of the radio station. The radio station's still operating behind the door over there, generally automated much of the time, unless students are in there. Yeah. So we've been able to get something done in here. I think I've had good feedback about it.
I think that what's your space here and what you do with your program and what we're doing with the arts, and I think that's the message I would like people to know, is that we are small, but we have a vibrant community of creators here. And I see, as Justin mentioned earlier, and you said people hanging out in the rooms, that's gotten much more prolific since COVID, when students came back and they really find that they enjoy that gathering space. I have students that have taken classes with me in previous semesters. Maybe they're not currently enrolled, but they come into the open studio times and work. So the students can, it's just a space for them to hang out, and there's that sort of creative atmosphere just happening, and it fills them up. But that's happening here. It's like a little gem that I hope people will come here and discover. Students that are already here might take a course with the in the arts and sort of be able to experience that for themselves.
Maybe discover something about themselves that they didn't know about.
Yeah.
By trying something new or trying something different.
I'll tell you, every week I have one student at some point say to me, "I didn't think I could do this."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the best.
That is super gratifying.
That's why I teach. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, that's so true. Do either of you have anything going personally that you would like to tell the world about? Anything up and coming? Anything percolating along in your artistic endeavor or expression?
Personal things? No, but we got some events coming up in the gallery.
Okay.
I got some personal things coming.
All right.
They're coming. But things I can put my finger on is there's an exhibition celebrating the semi-quincentennial of the United States, the 250th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
A show that is running with the theme of liberty in all of its interpretations. If this is out before the deadline, which is April 20-something.
It will be out before that.
No, it's before that, the deadline. Please submit something. And then we have a student show coming up.
Okay.
In the fall, we'll have an alumni show and Makers of the Mohawk Valley show, which is an open entry to anyone within the Mohawk Valley. Please come submit your artwork. We want it. Artwork and fine crafts.
And we have ongoing small shows in what we call the micro galleries outside the studios. Mm-hmm. We have 3 large cabinet spaces there, and we've got some new work in there right now, from watercolor class and drawing 2 and ceramics and sculpture. And also it's getting to be registration time soon. So, hey, sign up for an art class.
Sign up for an art class. If you've never done it before, you really should. discover something about yourself. And I got to say, I do love that whole space down there. I don't know whose idea it was, by the way, to start the little free library in the CA building.
Matt Powers.
Yeah, Matt
Which is
Powell.
also just a really nice
It is great.
touchstone as well. It's really a great and comfortable and welcoming place to be, and I hope everybody gets a chance to discover it. Anything else you guys want to tack on?
Come see us.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity, Bob.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for being outstanding guests. I love to highlight the great work and the great people we have on our campus, and you guys tick off both of those boxes. I'm really grateful for your time today.
Thanks so much, Bob.
And I guess that's going to do it for this episode of the Generally Speaking podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tune again soon. Follow us on the social media and other places. See you later.